Yo, what's happening everybody? KingGBL here, and welcome back to a brand new Go By Like video. Today we're going to be showcasing some battles sent into the channel by KINGSAG. Thank you very much for sending in these battles. Last season, King hit Veteran for the first time, and he wants to basically make that push towards Expert and of course Legend, and he does want to attend one of the Pokemon Go regionals, and look to have a decent performance in one of those. So we're going to try our best to give King some coaching today, have a look and see what we could look to improve, and that's basically what this channel is all about. Whenever I started this channel, I'd only hit Veteran for the first time, and last season I hit Expert and Legend for the first time, so I know that over the last 6 months I've learned quite a lot, and that's what I like to do in these videos, just share what I've learned and try to give you some tips and everything to try and improve. Of course I still have a long way to go, but what I love about this community on this channel is we're all trying to help each other out, and if you want to join more like-minded people who are trying to push, trying to get better, feel free to join our Discord. We're always going through team ideas, doing practice battles, doing Discord streams, where oftentimes myself and all our Legend players are hopping in, just watching the battles, giving some advice. Generally we just have a lot of fun with the Discord streams, so feel free to join that in the description down below. I think it'll help you out a lot. I would say one of the biggest things that helped me improve at this game was hopping into Rise to the Occasion and Homeslice Henry's Discord. This is before I really started making videos, and I used to just battle as many people as I could. Some of the players were so much better than I was, but I was able to see what I was missing out on and what I could do to improve. And of course there are a lot of amazing content creators here on YouTube. My favourite one personally at the moment is Human Catcherbug. The way he explains teams and his ideas is amazing. I highly recommend checking him out if you haven't already. And generally all of the well-known content creators are just really good at helping people improve, so I do recommend if you want to get better at this game, just keep an eye out on those channels and you will definitely learn a lot of stuff. So with all that being said folks, let's hop into the battles. If you enjoy the video, hit that like button and subscribe as well. And it looks like we've got a pretty interesting match here. Now the opponent left with a move, so what the opponent needed to do here in this situation was actually just farm down 2 Incinerates. No matter what, it's going to take out the Frostlass, but at this point, King's made the correct play. He actually looked to go for the farm down, so the opponent had a shield up. If you're ever in that situation and the opponent still has a shield, you just commit to the farm down. So I think we've learned something already, and the one thing that you could try to consider is if the opponent has a shield left and you get them down to 1 HP, if they're just about to take you out, you can actually get a 1 HP knockout through the shield, so the opponent will shield and still get knocked out. So if that had have happened, that might have been a win condition, but the opponent had a really weird team. They were basically ABI weak to Lantern, which is never really a good thing to do. So hopping into this next match, KINGSAG played this really well. He looked to CMP them on the Earthquake the first time round, and we're just going to fire off this Mud Bomb just before the opponent throws a move. If the opponent shields us up, they're going to get farmed down, and at this point we're in a very dominant position. This is an ABB style team, so Kings swaps straight out here, which is perfect, and he swaps straight into Frostlass, which I'm a big fan of here. If you think about the team that the opponent's running, Galarian, Stunfisk and Noctowl, you would think that the biggest answer to Frostlass of course is going to be Stunfisk. The opponent lets that Shadow Ball go. If you're ever in that position, your only win condition is to try and call a bait, because they think you're going to shield automatically. So the opponent let that go, rightfully so, and that's a good game. So we get a very good lead in this next game with Lantern, and the opponent comes into Skarmory. Now, not a Pokemon that you see very often these days, but I think it's a very interesting Pokemon in the upcoming metas with Carbink. This thing takes neutral damage from rock moves, and it knows Flash Cannon and Steel Wing. So I think this could be a sleeper pick, and especially if Air Slash ever gets buffed, this could be very good. Now King is throwing in good timing here. He's throwing after 1, 4, 7 or 10, which is in between the animation of the fast move. The opponent is using a 3-turn move, and we're using a 2-turn move. So 1, 4, 7, 10 is the correct timing. I created a brand new graphic for you guys to download, so you can memorize move timing, or you can even check it mid-battle. Whenever I was first learning move timing, I took a screenshot of Rise to the Occasion's video, set it as my wallpaper, and if I wasn't sure, I would just quickly check it. I'll leave a link to this in the description. I posted it on my Twitter and in my Discord, so you can feel free to download that and quickly check it on the fly. But here's some general information about turns and moves in this game. 1 turn equals half a second in this game, so 2-turn move is 1 second, a 3-turn move is 1.5 seconds, 4 is 2 seconds, and an Incinerate is a full 2.5 seconds. The best way to count, in my opinion, is counting your own fast moves, or watching the opponent's animations come through. For me, that's the most accurate way to count fast moves. The importance of throwing in good timing is so that the opponent does not get any additional energy or damage whenever you're throwing your charge moves, and it also means that you're maximizing your damage and energy when you're throwing your charge moves as well. So throwing in bad timing can be the difference between winning and losing matches, and it's very common that people lose matches because they're allowing their opponent to get an extra 2 or 3 fast moves worth of energy, which means that they're able to outpace to the moves and actually flip the match up. Now I want to continue this topic, but I do have to mention something about the gameplay here. The opponent left with a Lantern and we had a Mud Bomb. Now a couple of mistakes here in my personal opinion, because if you think about the Mew moveset that is most common, it is most commonly going to be Surf and Wild Charge. If the opponent had Wild Charge, we would have lost this game. We do farm it down, which is the correct play, which allows us to get off a drill run on this, but I think it would have been much better to either throw the Sludge Bomb the second time around. If you want to chip it and then go into Dugong, that's absolutely fine. If the opponent goes for Wild Charge, they'll debuff themselves, and then you can look to Mud Bomb them to take them out, so that could have worked perfectly fine. But I think staying in there and throwing 2 Mud Bombs was not the correct play, because if the opponent had have taken us out and then looked to go for a Wild Charge and Dugong, I think they would have won that matchup. A really nice play here by Kings. He went for the catch with Swampert. Now the opponent built back up their energy, but it allows us to get an energy advantage, and that allows us to debuff the hard counter Medicham before they're able to do a lot of damage to us. Now in the back, these Pokemon usually go for Power Punch. The opponent has increased attack, so they want to apply as much damage as quickly as possible to not allow us to get to another move. Now this is going to be a lesson in counting moves as well. The opponent countered us down with 5 counters right here, so we're most likely going to come back in with Frostlass here, and we should probably be coming in with Frostlass, because this one Mud Bomb will not take out. The opponent is either on 7 or 8 counters. It's hard to tell sometimes on the swap. 9, so there are 9 counters right now, let's say. Alright, worst case scenario, this is 9. We let this move go, so they're on 4, 5, 6, 7. This cannot be a Psychic. Even if we're overcounting, this cannot be a Psychic, right? This can only be a Power Punch. So by shielding this, we could potentially be giving the opponent a chance to win this match. If we didn't shield that, we look to Avalanche them out, and then we have 2 shields for whatever's in the back. It is a Registeel, and this can look to get a little bit awkward here. Now, we do rightfully go for the Shadow Ball right here, and we'll see what the opponent decides to do. This will do a lot of damage, and the opponent does let it go. Now, if the opponent goes for a Zap Cannon, it will take us out, and it looks like we're going to let this move go. If you guys remember, the Swampert left with a Hydro Cannon, so this is looking very, very tough. Can we get to a move? We do get to the move, but our only option here is to try and counter this down. And here's the thing, guys, if we had 2 shields, the opponent would be getting to 2 Hydro Cannons, but we'd be able to counter it the whole way down. And at that point, we'd have enough energy to double Mud Bomb the Registeel and look to take them out. So that game could have been won if we were counting the energy in Medicham. Whenever Medichams are going for Power Punch, sometimes it's very easy just to stop counting because they're just countering you down. You need to count even when they're just countering you down. So in comes a very interesting lead. We can look to swap out. We've got 2 Ice types. That's what the ABB style team is for. If you get a bad lead, which will be a Flyer for this team, you have 2 Ice types to deal with the Flyer, so you swap into one of the 2. Now there is something I would like to point out here, and this can actually help you flip matches, and I think it might make a difference here. Whenever the opponents swap in, they generally get a 1-turn lag, right? Which means that if you throw your charge move before they throw a charge move, it means that you deny them a full 2 turns of energy. So in this situation here, we could have already Avalanched or Shadow Balled them before they threw off this move, and they may have actually got 1 move less through, which could make a difference here. Let's have a look. We are going for Avalanche, which would come very close to taking the opponent out if they let it go. We're going to go straight for the next one here, which of course will do the exact same thing. You could even consider going Shadow Ball for the second one because they may not want to double shield it, but I think this is perfectly fine. Now the opponent will get to 1 more Stone Edge. The counts for Stone Edge are 7 Mud Shots and then 6, right? So the opponent, they're going to get to 1 more move here, and as you're seeing here, they were only 1 Powder Snow away from knockout. So if we had have denied them those 2 turns of energy, we would not have to eat this Mud Bomb, and that would put our Frostlass in a much better position with a lot more health, and the ability to maybe get off multiple moves here on the Swampert. We can still get off 1 move here, and maybe this situation would have worked out the same. And the 1-turn denial is not a very consistent mechanic, but yeah, we're getting off, the maximum amount of damage here. But I think the opponent might be looking to commit to a farm down. They would not have been able to farm down before. So look at this, we're in a more awkward position now, where the opponent has a lot of energy, whereas they would have had to throw a move on Frostlass before to try and take it out. Now we're basically forced to eat an additional move on Toxicroak, which is never pleasant, and now we're not getting to the Sludge Bomb. So you're seeing how these little things can make a huge difference. Literally the difference of throwing your move before they threw the move would have saved our Toxicroak, and would have allowed us to do a lot better against Swampert. And now we're in a very good position still. We have an Altaria versus a Dugong, so in this situation it's worked out perfectly fine. All's well that ends well. But just in general, you always try to play to your win conditions, and you always try to play optimally, because in different scenarios, this may have looked to have cost the game. In any case, this is good games well played. We played the start of that match correctly by swapping out, of course drawing out something from the back, and then looking to, realign a nice type with the Altaria. Now, very interesting lead here. We do super effective damage to this Nidoqueen, but once again we've got an ABB style team, and we're not really looking to hunt Nidoqueen with this, to be fair. Now, whenever you see a Nidoqueen lead, if you guys have been studying teams a little bit, make a guess what's going to be in the back. My first guess would be Umbreon and Scrafty, Poison Double Dark. I believe, was it Zerfel Rose's team? So if that's the case, right, what is going to be strong against their backline? Well, of course it is going to be Toxicroak. It's super effective damage against both of those Pokemon, and because Nidoqueen is a ground type, both of your back Pokemon do super effective to Nidoqueen through fast move pressure as well, so it's actually better in that situation because the counters are resisted on Nidoqueen too. Just swap straight out and preserve your Toxicroak for the dark types that are in the back. Now lucky enough for us in this situation, it is actually this dark type, which of course takes super effective from ice, so we're not getting super punished here, and I think we simul swapped as well, so definitely very fortunate in that situation. And we're going to let this Body Slam go, and that's going to allow us to maybe get to another move. No, we just about can't, which is perfectly fine. We're coming in with Dugong here, and we're going to see what the opponent wants to do. They do get off another Body Slam, which is a little bit unfortunate, and I think we're going to see what the opponent has here in the back. I don't think they'll come into Nidoqueen on this. They do come into Umbreon. So it is Poison Double Dark. It is a variation of the team with, of course, Zweilous instead of Scrafty. If this had been Scrafty, we were in big trouble, I think. So it is Umbreon, which of course is never that easy to deal with. It's super bulky. But here's the thing with Dugong. You can go for the first debuff, and I think from here on out, you go for drill runs, right? Because what you're really looking to do here is get this as low as possible. The Nidoqueen is already super low, so the damage is done on the Nidoqueen. They may look to get to a Poison Fang again, which of course can be a little bit tricky, depending on where you see it. And of course Toxicroak is so glassy that it can't really eat a move. We're saving our shield here as well, which is perfect. We definitely need to save the shield for Nidoqueen. We're looking to come in for the snipe, which I quite like here. The opponent comes in, they do not get off a move, and this is just basically game over. So it worked out perfectly, and as I said, Toxicroak is of course taking the back line. Now very bad lead here, let's see what we do. We're going to pivot into Dugong, which is a water type, as well as an ice type, so this is perfectly good. Now the fact that the opponent's dumping energy here is amazing, and you really actually want to see this. They dump the Dragon Claw, which is definitely not the play. You would expect them to dump a Blast Burn and dip, which would do probably about 50% of this Dugong. They let that first move go, and they swap into a Swampert, so the opponent must not have a great answer to this Pokemon, which means that if you think about what we have in the back, our Frostlass looks to be in an amazing position to sweep here. Now the opponent will need to go for an Earthquake to take us out. I think we're happy enough just to let this go, probably come back in with Toxicroak, and because we're realigning here and because the opponent dumped off energy, we can maybe look to go for a counter down with Toxicroak, eat a Hydro Cannon if the opponent throws it straight away, which they do, which makes our life so much easier. You should always try to threaten the big move if you can. Maybe the opponent wasn't going to get to it in time. Now we're in a position where the Charizard is super low, and we can even look to go for a Mud Bomb, and I learned something new watching this gameplay. Toxicroak beats Charizard in CMP. I did not think that was the case. At this point we can let this go, look to come in for a farm down with Frostlass, another Dragon Claw's coming through. The opponent goes for an Undercharge, which is a good play sometimes if you want to get extra energy, but we just aggro swap right out of here, we preserve our Toxicroak. So in the end, if the switch clock is up, if the opponent can swap out, you don't go for the Undercharge, you just take it out, because the opponent swaps out with a low health Pokemon, which makes it very awkward. But if the opponent is switch locked, you can look to go for that. Now, the opponent is going to get off an Aqua Tail and a Crunch. I believe it's 5 Poison Jabs for the Crunch, 4 for the Aqua Tail, so we could actually go for a slight overfarm if we wanted to. The opponent did just dump off energy, and I think they're about 3 off the Dragon Claw here. So we could have went for a slight overfarm if we wanted to, and the opponent actually is getting to the move on CMP. So this will be a Dragon Claw. This is all working out perfectly fine anyway, but if you want to just optimize things a little bit better, you could have overfarmed by another 1 or 2, and just made sure that you're not even having to take that Dragon Claw, right? Once again, in that situation it wasn't relevant, but you do try to always play well, no matter what the situation is. Now this is a bit of an awkward lead. One Psycho Boost will look to take out the Toxicroak. Now we sort of do have to go straight into this Pokemon here, and you know, I wouldn't even mind shielding this first move here. You sort of need to keep this Pokemon alive. If possible, in comes Obstagoon, which is very tricky. Now, fun fact about Obstagoon versus Frostlass, if you're using an attack-weighted Frostlass, or if you're ahead by 2 or 3 Powder Snows, you can actually flip this match against Obstagoon in the 2 shield. It takes them 5 for the Night Slash, right? You live the first Night Slash, and then you can look to get off multiple moves and farm it down. Or, again, if you're ahead in energy, you get to these moves in 6, 6, 5, right? So if you're ahead by 2, that means that it's basically like 5, 5, 5, which is matching their energy, so you look to CMP them every time and try to deny energy, and that's a way you can take that matchup. Yeah, so in comes this thing. This is very awkward, but at least we have a shield off the opponent. We do go for quite a nice catch here, which is most likely going to be the Psycho Boost. We'll see what the opponent does go for. They go for the Psycho Boost. That is perfect. We definitely needed to make the catch in that situation, and we've actually drawn out the Vigoro from the back as well. The opponent's going to get off a move here, and we can look to go for maybe like 1 Drill Run or 1 debuff before they leave. The opponent's going to get a huge farm down, so they're going to be in about 7 or 8 counters, so you probably do have to get rid of this straight away. In that situation, you could even go for Drill Run, which means the opponent will get less counters for him. We do go straight for the Mud Bomb. Lucky enough, the opponent does not go straight Body Slam, Of course, one bulldoze would absolutely kill this frog. The opponent maybe could have considered shielding there and looking to fire off multiple moves, because now we have 2 shields versus this thing. One Psycho Boost will completely take us out, and at this point, they should not really be able to outpace us. We can probably just go for back-to-back Mud Bombs, and yeah, the opponent's not throwing any moves yet. They need to build up to like 3 here. Well, actually 2 now, of course, that they've got our first shield. But that's a good game. We can look to fire this off even before CMP, and that's a good game right there. I don't think the opponent was going to be able to get to the moves, but I think maybe going for raw damage might have been better in that situation, instead of going for the Icy Wind. Now we have a very good lead here, and of course we will need to preserve this when the opponent swaps out. In comes Trevenant, and we are staying in this match. Do not stay in this match. Here's the thing, right? If the opponent knows the move counts, they're not shielding this. This is resisted. The opponent shields it. That is so lucky. And we do correctly come into Dugong here. Now this is most likely going to be a Shadow Ball or a bait. It is the Seed Bomb. So the opponent fires off a Seed Bomb, and we should still be able to take this matchup. Not before the opponent gets to another Seed Bomb, which will do about 40% damage to the Dugong. It's not pleasant for sure. Boom, that does a lot actually, probably about 50%. We're going to go for another Icy Wind, and the opponent really should be letting this go, because if they don't let it go, we're going to farm down. So the opponent does let it go, and back in comes Bastiodon. Now we're going to look to get off raw damage on this thing, which I'm a big fan of course. Whenever Toxicroak comes back, the opponent is most likely going to just insta-swap out, right? So even if they're debuffed, they're just going to insta-swap. Doesn't really matter, you might as well get off the damage, and at this point, they're in Mud Bomb range. Like counters and Mud Bomb should roughly take out this Pokemon. Now we correctly weighted down our timer because we actually left the timers misaligned, and once again we're staying in against this Medicham. This would be an Ice Punch which will come very close to taking us out. We need this Pokemon to take out Bastiodon, we cannot stay in here. Frostlass beats Medicham in every even shielding scenario, even probably behind on energy. Like you have to be behind by a lot of energy. So you could even like farm up and then swap out, because you're going to have to throw a Shadow Ball no matter what, right? So like, you know, throwing that one move, it's not really chipping them into a range where it's helping you take them out. And it just means Bastiodon's going to get a huge farm down on this Frostlass. Now they're going to have to eat a Shadow Ball for their troubles, which is not very nice for the Bastiodon. And of course they can take us out at this range. But look, once again, it's just one of them situations where if this had been a slightly different lineup, or things were slightly different, it's little things like that that can cost you at times. So the opponent still had a shield, and we would have been able to counter them down, of course, but it's getting to the point where like you've got your Toxicroak on 1 HP countering down the Bastiodon, where it should be a lot more comfortable. Now we have a Tapu Fini here. Let's see what the opponent does. We swap straight out into Dugong. I think that's a fine enough match, and actually it's kind of good that we do swap out. And I like that we're going straight for this move as well. It's going to take us at least 2 drill runs to take this out, so the opponent should not really shield this, but they do. You don't shield that, you'd never shield that first one. It can be an Icy Wind at times, because Dugong might want to go for the debuff. They go for Zap Cannon, which would look to one-shot us, and they do not get the debuff. And once again, I think we're going to look to go for a drill run. We just basically want to chip this into the point, where we can basically look to counter it down with Toxicroak or go for one Mud Bomb. The opponent double shields this thing, which is actually insane. And we're going to shield back. I think at this point we don't shield this. I think we go for one Mud Bomb and counter down, or we look to just counter this thing down, like shield and counter down. Now we're aggro swapping. I'm not too sure why we're aggro swapping here. Especially, yeah, I think like that's not correct at all. Because boom, look, goodbye Toxicroak. And, you know, what are we really doing against... The opponent swaps into Tapu Fini. So look, I think the first shield is maybe okay. It's still questionable to be fair, but it's okay. Especially if you get a shield off the opponent, you just let it go at that point. Come back in with Toxicroak, just get a ton of energy. Those lock-ons are doing 1 damage each. If you shield once and farm down, you're just coming out with like 2 Sludge Bombs, right? But at this point, like, yeah, the opponent swaps into Tapu and you're sort of lucky that they do that. But it's just so awkward. We're actually, like, we've got our Frostlass basically dead here, and we do have a Dugong with a ton of energy. Now, the opponent showed us that they were weak to it, but we still have to take care of this Reggie, and we just need to hope that there's something that we can look to, like, one-shot in the back, like an Altaria or something like that. Okay, it is a Dragon type in the back. Now, this thing does no, Brick Break, so we'll see how close this gets. We do apply the debuff immediately, and hopefully this thing is not going to be able to take us out. This is going to get very, very close. The opponent waits to the very last second to throw, which is correct, because they're only going to be able to get off 1 move. Will this take us out? Brick Break, it is debuffed, and it does not take us out, just by 1 HP. Once again, we are going to win this match, but it just came way too close for my liking. You could have got way ahead in energy with Toxicroak, you could have left the Registeel matchup up a shield, or up just an absolute ton of energy, and now we have a very positive lead. Once again, we need to swap out of here immediately, if not sooner. The opponent does let us get to the Sludge Bomb. Of course, they're building up to the Psychic. This will hurt for sure. But again, you know, you're going to have to go into Frostlass here. And, you know, at this point, you're probably going to have to shield up a Psychic, right? So you've pretty much just not accomplished anything here. Psychic number 1 coming through. and we can maybe look to go for Shadow Ball. It's not even in avalanche range at that point, so like this is kind of rough. The opponent should let this go, they do let it go correctly so, and we'll see what they decide to come in with. So look, we did come out of there with a shield, but I think it would have been just so much cleaner coming in with Frostlass, because of course we want to keep the Toxicroak alive and as healthy as possible for this thing. But Frostlass versus Stunfisk up a shield is a very, very positive match. Boom, you actually go for 2 of these on this thing, 2 avalanches, and we're actually just at the avalanche, so you could shield this if you want to. I think I'd prefer the counter down from this point, because it's getting pretty close. I think I'd prefer to go for the counter down here, but this is working out absolutely fine. The opponent double shields it, which is interesting. All we have to do is shield once and counter down, and we'll get to see what's in the back here. We'll be up energy. The opponent YOLOs the Earthquake as well, and in comes Noctowl versus our Dugong. So again, all's well that ends well. I'm just seeing a few things that are just like a little bit less optimal. Whenever the opponent has 3 Pokemon, you might want to take switch advantage, but whenever the opponent has 2 Pokemon, taking switch advantage is not as important, because of course, let's say they take out your Frostlass, right? Come in and counter down, they hard swap into Noctowl, and then you've got like a healthier Toxicroak, and you've got a Dugong anyway, and you've got more energy in the Toxicroak, so just overall that's more optimal. But we do take this out. Back in comes the Stunfisk, we've got the move loaded. They just dumped the Earthquake, so they won't be able to get to a move here, and that's a good game, very well played. So let's have a little bit more of a chat about move timing here just before we finish out. So if you're running a 2-turn move, these are the 2 main ones to learn, right? If you're running a 2-turn move and the opponent has a 3-turn move, you throw after 1, 4, 7, 10. Those are your numbers, 1, 4, 7, 10. If you're using a 3-turn move and they've got a 2-turn move, you throw after odd numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, right? If you're using a 1-turn move, you try to throw between the moves, right? So like, let's say for example you're using a Dragonair. The matchup between Dragonair and Medicham is a good example. You reach the Body Slam and they reach the Ice Punch after 12 turns. Now sometimes if the opponent throws instantly, you can throw in CMP, but if they don't throw instantly, they get an extra counter through, which means that after you throw your charge move, they'll be 5 away from the Ice Punch. So it's a little bit risky, and you can actually lose that match and get outpaced if you don't throw in good timing against Medicham. Generally throwing in good timing with 1-turn moves is probably the most tricky. You can either use the opponent's animation as a guide. Using the sound can be very helpful in that situation, I find, because you're hearing the Dragon Breaths go through. However, the sounds overlap somewhat, so that can be a little bit inconsistent. So trying to learn the animations, I think Rollout is arguably the most difficult one to throw in good timing against with a 1-turn move. So it really just depends. I find Fury Cutter quite easy to listen to and throw in good timing. What you can do is, if it's a match that you need to shield in, wait until the opponent throws a move. Let's say for example, if it's Dragonair versus Dunsparce, right? Let them throw their move, and then throw 2 Dragon Breaths and throw. Because, you know, with those particular type of Pokemon like Dunsparce, Umbreon, I played that matchup quite a lot in the single type comp, and Dragonair can beat Umbreon in the 2 shield. But here's the thing, like if Umbreon gets 3 Snarls through, it becomes a little bit more difficult to win that. So what I often did is allowed the opponents to throw first, or farm up to the Body Slam, and then overfarm by 2, which will be 14 turns versus the 15. That's another way you can track it. You can use your own energy to track it, but you know, it can be very vital to throw in good timing when using 1-turn moves. I think with 2-turn moves, it's definitely the easiest to time, and it's probably why you don't see a lot of 4-turn or 5-turn move Pokemon these days. People are throwing in such optimal timing that things like Talonflame and Hypno are no longer as good. If you're watching this video and you want to hit Veteran for the first time, if you want to hit even Ace for the first time, Expert, Legend, whatever the case may be, the 2 main things to learn is the move counts on the opponents, and of course optimal move timing for yourself, right? So knowing that Medicham gets to Ice Punches in 6 is great to know, or knowing that Frostlass gets to an Avalanche in 6, 6, and then 5, which is a very common count by the way. Noctowl 665, Venusaur 665. There's a lot of clone moves, and again that's a little bit more advanced when you're looking at like how much energy things cost, and actually counting energy as opposed to moves. That is a little bit more advanced, but there are a lot of moves that have the same energy generation, and a lot of moves that cost the same amount of energy. Like Sky Attack costs the same amount of energy as Avalanche. Wing Attack and Powder Snow have the same energy generation. You know, so like you will know like, okay, Noctowl 665, so therefore Frostlass is 665. So if in doubt, if the opponent's throwing a move after 6, just assume that it's 5 the third time around. That is just a good rule of thumb if you ask me. Clefable Fairy Wind, 665 for Meteor Mash. It's very, very consistent, and I think those are the 2 main things that you can learn. Being able to catch moves in good timing, being able to throw moves in good timing as well, and generally just keeping track of your opponent's energy. Those are like the main things, I think, and I think it's the main difference between me now and me like 6 months ago when I was only hitting Veteran for the first time. And you know, of course beforehand, I think the season before that, I only just hit Ace, Those are the most important things in my opinion, and that'll get you really, really far in this game. So we're going to have a look at this match and see what happened. I'm replaying this match over because I was going on about move timing. We ended up losing this match here because we got psycho boosted. Now, I think what we needed to do right here was catch that drill run, because we've basically got no shields and Toxic Rogue, and in comes Walrein, right? So if we had caught that drill run, we're going for the debuff here as well. I think we probably just go for raw damage. I'm a little bit tuned out here, so maybe that's not correct, but in general, you're going to get psycho boosted, right? So that's going to one-shot the Toxic Rogue. This Earthquake doesn't take us out, and it wouldn't have took us out from full health, I don't believe, either. So I think that was what you needed to do to win this match. We're going to get off, maybe, I think the opponent will outpace to the next move here, and like, we maybe can get a counter down if the switch clock is not up. But by the looks of things, I think the opponent will get it back in here, probably just go straight Psycho Boost. Oh, we did get the counter down, and we did go for the Sludge Bomb, but I just think Deoxys is way too thick for this, and that's going to be a good game. But yo, I hope you all learned something today, man. Let me know if you like this type of video, I'll do more. Drop a like in the video, subscribe as well, and of course let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Thank you very much, Kings, for sending in the battles, and thank you very much everybody for watching. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll catch you all next time.